All right now, pull up a chair, get comfortable. You are not going to believe the story I'm about to tell you. Stick with me till the end, because what my great-grandmother did, or rather what she hid, and how it affected her own family, well, it's gonna leave you speechless. My 104-year-old great-grandmother, Nana Rose, bless her heart, kept something locked away for 80 long years. And I, her great-grandson, was the one to stumble upon it after she passed. What I found, well, it turned our whole family history right on its head. My great-grandmother, Nana Rose. Lord have mercy, what a woman. She lived to be 104 years old, can you imagine? Saw the world change in ways we can only read about in history books. Born in 1918, she'd seen it all. The Great Depression, World War II, men on the moon, the internet, you name it. She was a tough old bird, sharp as a tack right up until the end, though her body, well, it was finally ready to rest. Back in my day, and certainly in hers, families were different. Closer, maybe, but also more prone to keeping things buttoned, uptight. Secrets were just part of the furniture, like a dusty old armoire you knew was full of stuff but never dared to open. Nana Rose, she was the queen of that. She had this way about her, a twinkle in her eye that said she knew more than she was letting on, but also a stern set to her jaw that warned you not to pry. She'd tell stories, oh, she was a wonderful storyteller, about her childhood, about my granddad when he was a boy, but there were always gaps, little silences where you knew something was missing. When she finally passed, it was peaceful, in her own bed, in the little house she'd lived in for nigh on 70 years. The whole family gathered, of course. My mom, her daughter, was heartbroken, but also relieved Nana Rose wasn't suffering anymore. My kids, her great-great-grandchildren, they only knew her as this ancient, almost mythical figure who always had a Werther's original in her pocket. The task of clearing out her house fell mostly to me and my wife, Susan. My mom, Martha, was just too emotional. And let me tell you, 104 years of living accumulates a lot of stuff. It was like an archaeological dig. Every drawer, every closet, every dusty corner held a piece of history. We found old photographs, ration books from the war, letters yellowed with age, clothes that hadn't seen the light of day since the 50s. We were in her bedroom, a small, neat room that always smelled faintly of lavender and old paper. It was the third day of sorting, and I was tired, my back aching. Susan was going through the linen closet, and I was tackling Nana Rose's old writing desk. It was a beautiful piece, dark mahogany, with lots of little drawers and cubby holes. I'd always admired it as a kid. I pulled out a drawer filled with old pens and dried-up ink bottles, and my hand brushed against something at the back. It felt like a false bottom. Well, I'll be, I muttered, fiddling with it. Sure enough, a small wooden panel slid aside, revealing a hidden compartment, and nestled inside was a small wooden box. Not very big, maybe the size of a shoebox for a child's shoes, but it was old, the wood dark and smooth with age, and it had a tarnished brass lock. "Susan, come look at this," I called out. She came over, wiping dust from her hands. "What in the world?" she said, her eyes wide. "Do you think there's treasure in it?" I chuckled. Knowing Nana Rose, it's probably just more old letters, but it's locked up tighter than Fort Knox. There was no key, of course. We searched the entire desk, then the whole room, even Nana Rose's old jewelry box. Nothing. My mom came over that afternoon and I showed it to her. "Oh, I remember seeing that box when I was a little girl," she said, a faraway look in her eyes. I asked Grandma Rose what was in it once, and she just patted my head and said, "Some things are best left undisturbed, little one." Never saw it again after that. I figured she'd gotten rid of it. "Well, she didn't get rid of it, Mom. It was hidden," I said, feeling a strange pull towards this mysterious container. "What do you think is inside?" "Probably old love letters from Great-Grandpa Joe," she said with a shrug. "Or maybe some embarrassing old poems she wrote. Nothing scandalous, I'm sure. Your great-grandmother was a pillar of rectitude." But I wasn't so sure. Why hide something so carefully for so long if it was just old poems? Why tell her own daughter, my mom, that some things are best left undisturbed? My curiosity, let me tell you, was piqued something fierce. The rest of the family, when they heard about it, mostly dismissed it. Probably just sentimental trinkets, my brother said over the phone. Don't get your hopes up for pirate gold, John. But I couldn't let it go. That night, after Susan had gone to bed, I sat at the kitchen table with that box. I tried a few old keys we had lying around. No luck. I even tried picking the lock with a paper clip, like you see in the movies. Nothing. I was about to give up, thinking maybe Mom was right. Maybe it was best left undisturbed. But then I remembered Nana Rose's little sewing kit, the one she always kept in the sunroom. It had all sorts of tiny tools, little scissors and sturdy needles. I fetched it and found a small, very thin metal skewer, almost like a miniature awl. I don't know what possessed me, but I slid it into the keyhole, wiggled it around, pushed a little, and I swear on my grave, I heard a faint click. My heart jumped into my throat. I held my breath and gently tried the lid. It lifted. I sat there for a good minute, just staring at the open box. The smell of old paper and something else, something faintly sweet and musty, wafted out. It wasn't filled with gold or jewels, that's for sure. What I saw first was a neat stack of letters, tied with a faded blue ribbon. They were brittle, the ink faded, but still legible. Beneath them, wrapped in what looked like a piece of old yellowed linen, was something small and soft. I carefully unwrapped it. Lord have mercy. It was a baby's knitted bootie. Just one. Tiny, cream-colored, with a little silk ribbon tie. It was so small, so delicate. My throat tightened. What on earth was this doing in Nana Rose's secret box? My great-grandmother, as far as any of us knew, only had one child, my grandfather, Michael. There was no lost baby in our family lore. And then, underneath the booty, tucked into the very bottom of the box, was a photograph. A small, sepia-toned studio portrait of a young woman. She was beautiful, with dark, wavy hair and eyes that seemed to hold a hint of sadness or maybe defiance. She was wearing a dress from what looked like the late 1930s or early 1940s. I'd never seen her before in my life. She wasn't Nana Rose, I knew that for sure. And she wasn't any other relative. I could recognize from the old family albums, who was this woman, and whose tiny shoe was this? The letters I knew held the key. My hands were trembling as I reached for the ribbon. What secrets had Nana Rose guarded so fiercely for 80 years? And why was my gut telling me this was going to change everything? I thought I knew about my family. I just had this feeling, you know, like standing on the edge of a cliff, not knowing if you're about to fall or fly. I untied that faded blue ribbon, my fingers fumbling like a clumsy teenager. The paper of the letters was so fragile. I was scared they'd crumble in my hands. The handwriting was elegant, a bit spidery, clearly from a fountain pen. The first one I picked up was dated June 1942. It began, "My dearest Lily." Lily? I racked my brain. I'd never heard of a Lily in our family. Nana Rose's maiden name was Walker. Her husband, my great-grandfather Joe, had a sister named Agnes. But no. Lily? I started reading, my heart thumping like a wild drum against my ribs. The letter was from Nana Rose. It was full of everyday news at first, talk of the war effort, shortages, news from their little hometown in Ohio. But then the tone shifted. I know you're still angry, and truth be told, I'm still smarting from your words, Lily. Pa is beside himself, you know. Ma just cries, leaving like that without a proper goodbye. It wasn't right. But I pray every night you are safe and well. Please write to me, let me know you're all right, let me know about the baby. The baby, my breath hitched. So the booty. It belonged to Lily's child? Was Lily Nana Rose's sister? I'd never known Nana Rose to have a sister. My granddad always said she was an only child, or at least that's what he'd been told. Could it be? A secret sister? I devoured the letters one after another. There were about a dozen from Nana Rose to this Lily, and only 3 replies from Lily tucked in between. Lily's letters were shorter, more guarded. Yes, she was alive. Yes, the baby was well. She was living in a different state, a place called Harmony Creek, and she didn't want anyone from home to know where she was. There was a deep vein of hurt and resentment in her words, especially towards her parents and, it seemed, towards Nana. Rose herself. "You took his side, Rose," one of Lily's letters accused. "You always did. You never understood." Took whose side? What had happened? The letters hinted at a terrible argument, a family schism. Nana Rose's letters pleaded for forgiveness, for understanding. "It all happened so fast, Lily. I didn't mean for things to go so far. Pa was just, you know how he is. Stubborn, as a mule, but he loves you, we all do." It became clear Lily was Nana Rose's younger sister. She'd gotten pregnant out of wedlock, a monumental scandal back in the 1940s, especially in a small, God-fearing town. Their father, my great-great-grandfather, must have been furious. There was mention of a young man, a no-good drifter, according to one of Nana Rose's paraphrases of her father's words, who was supposedly the father. Lily had run away, or perhaps been forced to leave, to have her baby in secret and save the family from shame. And Nana Rose. It seemed she was caught in the middle. Maybe she had tried to mediate, or maybe she'd been too scared of their father to truly stand up for Lily. The guilt in her letters was palpable. "I wish I'd been stronger for you, little sister," she wrote in one. "I visit your room sometimes. It's just as you left it. Ma keeps it clean, hoping you'll come home." The last letter from Lily was dated 1944. She said she was doing okay, that her child, a little girl, was her whole world. She didn't mention the father. After that, silence. Nana Rose's subsequent letters, filled with increasing desperation and pleas for contact, were all marked, "Return to sender," "Addressee unknown," "Lord have mercy." An entire branch of my family vanished. A great-aunt I never knew existed, and her child, my mother's first cousin. What happened to them? Did Nana Rose ever try to find them beyond writing those letters? Or did she, after a while, just accept the silence, lock away the mementos and the grief, and get on with her life, burying the secret deeper with each passing year? The photograph. I picked it up again. This had to be Lily. Her eyes, now that I looked closer, had a resemblance to Nana Rose's, a certain intensity. She looked so young, so vulnerable, but with that defiant tilt to her chin. My heart ached for her, for the life she must have had, alone with a new baby in a strange town. The next morning, I told Susan everything. She listened, bless her heart, without interrupting, her expression shifting from curiosity to shock to sadness. "John, this is incredible," she said when I finished. "Your poor great-aunt, and Nana Rose, carrying that burden all these years." "I know," I said, my voice thick. "But what do I do now, Suze? Lily would be, well, if she's still alive, she'd be in her late 90s. Her child, my mom's cousin, would be around my age, maybe a bit older." "You have to tell your mother," Susan said gently. That was the hardest part. Mom, Martha, was already grieving Nana Rose. How would she react to news that her mother had hidden such a monumental secret? That she had an aunt and a cousin she never knew? I broke it to her carefully, over coffee at her kitchen table. I showed her the box, the letters, the booty, the photograph. She was silent for a long time, tears streaming down her face. Not angry tears, not at first, but tears of, I don't know, a deep, profound sorrow. "All these years," she whispered, tracing the outline of Lily's face in the photo. "All these years Mama carried this. Why didn't she ever tell me? I had an aunt? A cousin? I think she was ashamed, Mom," I said softly. "And maybe after so long it was just too hard to bring it up again. You know how that generation was. They buried their pain deep. Then a flicker of something else crossed her face." "That explains so much," she murmured. "Mama always had this sadness about her sometimes, especially around the holidays. And she never wanted to talk about her own childhood much. Beyond a few simple stories, she'd always change the subject if I asked about her parents or if she had siblings. She looked at me, her eyes suddenly sharp. "Did you find out where Lily went? This Harmony Creek?" It was on one of the envelopes, yes, I said. "A small town in West Virginia, it looks like." "We have to find out what happened to her, John," Mom said, her voice surprisingly firm. "To them, if my cousin is out there, I want to know." That was all the encouragement I needed. Back in my day, finding someone with so little information would have been like looking for a needle in a continent-sized haystack. But now, with the internet, I spent the next few days glued to my computer, searching census records, old newspapers, ancestry websites. Harmony Creek was indeed a real place, though barely a blip on the map. I found a few mentions of a Lily Walker, or Lillian Walker around the right time frame, but nothing concrete. The trail was cold, very cold. 80 years is a lifetime. People move, names change through marriage. Felt like an impossible task. I was about to give up to tell Mom that it was a dead end, when I stumbled upon an old digitized church record from a small Baptist congregation in Harmony Creek. It was a membership roll from 1945. And there, clear as day, was a name: Mrs. Lily Mae Carter, née Walker, and infant daughter Clara. Carter, she'd gotten married. That was a new lead, a huge one. But the record also had a small handwritten annotation next to Lily's name. It was hard to decipher, but it looked like it said, "Deceased, 1947. My blood ran cold. Deceased? Lily had died? So young. What about Clara, her daughter? If Lily died in 1947, Clara would have been only a toddler. What on earth became of a little orphaned girl in a tiny town back then? This wasn't just a story of a hidden sister anymore. It was becoming a tragedy, and I was standing right on the precipice of uncovering something that felt even bigger and more heartbreaking than I could have imagined. What had I gotten myself into? Deceased, 1947. Those two words echoed in my mind. Lily, Nana Rose's sister, my great-aunt, hadn't just disappeared. She'd died, barely 30 years old, leaving behind a little girl named Clara, my mom's cousin, my cousin, once removed. My heart sank like a stone. All this time, Nana Rose must have wondered, hoped, maybe even prayed her sister was alive and well. And all along, Lily was gone. Did Nana Rose ever find out? Or did she go to her grave believing Lily had simply chosen to stay away? The letters gave no clue. I had to tell Mom. It was another difficult conversation. She cried again, this time for the young woman she'd never known, for the life cut short. "Oh, that poor, poor girl," she kept saying. "And her baby, Clara. What happened to Clara, John? We have to find out." The bit of information about Lily marrying a Carter was the key. With a surname and a rough location, the search for Clara became a bit more focused, though still a long shot. I spent hours, days, hunched over my laptop, feeling like a regular. Sherlock Holmes, bless his heart. I searched for Clara Carter, born around 1943 or 1944, with connections to Harmony Creek, West Virginia. It turns out small towns, even ones that barely exist anymore, often have dedicated local historians or genealogical societies. I found an online forum for people researching families from that county. I posted a carefully worded inquiry, mentioning Lily Walker Carter and her daughter Clara, asking if anyone had any information. Didn't hold out much hope. These things can take months, years, if you get a reply at all, but you won't believe what happened next. Less than 24 hours later, I got an email. It was from a woman named Betty, an amateur genealogist, who lived near Harmony Creek. She wrote, "I remember my grandmother talking about the Carters. Lily Walker married Tom Carter. He was a coal miner. Real shame what happened to Lily. Died of the influenza, they said, just after the war. Left that little girl, Clara, all alone. Tom, well, he was broken up, but he had to work. He remarried a couple of years later, a woman from up north, and they moved away. Took Clara with them, of course. Moved away. My heart did a little flip-flop. So Clara hadn't been left in an orphanage. She'd gone with her father and stepmother. That was something, but where? Betty didn't know. They just sort of vanished, she wrote. Tom wasn't one for keeping in touch. That was the last straw for just sitting behind a computer. I felt like I was on a mission now. Susan, I said that evening, I think I need to go to Harmony Creek. She looked at me, a little surprised. Go there? John, it's probably just a ghost town now. What do you expect to find? I don't know, I admitted. Maybe old church records that aren't online, courthouse documents. Talk to some old-timers if there are any left. Betty gave me the name of the county seat. Maybe there's something there. I feel like I owe it to Lily, to Clara, to Nana Rose even, to see this through. Susan, bless her understanding soul, just nodded. Okay, honey. When do you want to leave? So, a few days later I found myself driving my old pickup truck through the winding roads of Appalachia. Harmony Creek, when I finally found it, was little more than a few dilapidated houses and a boarded-up general store. The church, Betty mentioned, was still standing, but barely. The cemetery beside it was overgrown, tombstones leaning at crazy angles. I spent a somber hour there walking among the graves, and then I found it. A small, simple stone, weathered and covered in lichen. Lily Mae Carter, née Walker. Beloved, wife and mother, 1916, 1947, gone but not forgotten. I just stood there, a lump in my throat. It was real. She was real. I took a picture of the headstone with my phone, a strange feeling washing over me, like I'd found a piece of a puzzle I didn't even know was missing. The county seat was a bit more promising. The courthouse had records going way back. I spent 2 days poring over dusty ledgers, marriage licenses, birth and death certificates, and I found it. Thomas Carter's remarriage certificate to an Elsie Henderson in 1949, and then a crucial piece, a school enrollment record for Clara Carter for first grade in 1950, in a slightly larger town about 50 miles away, a place called Oak Haven, Oak Haven. That was my next stop. It was a bigger town, still small by city standards, but it felt like a metropolis after Harmony Creek. I started with the library, looking at old phone books and town directories from the 1950s and 60s, and there he was. Carter, Thomas, minor. With an address? My heart was pounding. Was it possible? Could Clara, or someone who knew her, still be in this area? I drove to the address. It was a small, neat house in an older part of town. An elderly woman was out front tending her roses. I took a deep breath and got out of the truck. Excuse me, ma'am, I said, trying to sound casual. I'm doing some family research. I was wondering if you might have known a family named Carter who used to live around here. Thomas Carter and his daughter Clara. The woman straightened up, wiping her brow. She had kind eyes. Carter? Oh, Lord have mercy, Tom Carter. Yes, I remember them. Lived right next door, they did, when I was a young married woman. That was a long time ago. Tom passed on. 20 years back now. Elsie, his wife, she went into a home a few years after. Then she passed too. And Clara? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Do you remember Clara? Her face softened. Oh, little Clara, sweet girl but quiet. Had a hard time of it, I think, with Elsie. Elsie wasn't, well, she wasn't the maternal type, if you catch my drift. Always seemed a bit sad, that child. My heart ached. Poor kid. Clara grew up, got married herself, moved away, I heard. To Charleston, I think, or maybe it was Charlotte. One of those char cities. Charleston or Charlotte. That narrowed it down significantly. Back to the internet I went, this time in the Oak Haven library. If Clara had married, her surname would have changed. This was the tricky part. But I had her approximate birth year, and now 2 possible cities. I started searching marriage records, Social Security death indexes, praying she wasn't on that one. And even, heaven help me, Facebook. And then I found it. A public profile for a Clara Michelson living in Charlotte, North Carolina. Her profile picture showed a woman in her late 70s with kind eyes and a gentle smile. Her About section mentioned she was originally from West Virginia, and listed among her interests was genealogy. Could this be her? Could it really be this easy after all this searching? My hand was shaking so much I could barely hold the mouse. I sent a message. A very polite, very carefully worded message. I introduced myself as John Riley, said I was researching my family history, specifically the Walker family from Ohio and West Virginia, and that I had reason to believe we might be related through a Lillian Walker Carter. I asked if she might be willing to talk. Then I waited. It was the longest 2 hours of my life. I paced the library, drank 3 cups of bad coffee, and checked my phone every 30 seconds. Just as I was about to pack up, my phone buzzed. A new message from Clara Michelson. It read, "Mr. Riley, I am indeed Clara, daughter of Lily Walker Carter." I don't know what to say. I never knew any of my mother's family. I was told they wanted nothing to do with us. Who are you? My breath caught in my chest. This was it. This was her. Nana Rose's great-niece. My mom's cousin. My cousin. The revelation that her mother's family supposedly wanted nothing to do with them sent a fresh stab of pain through me. For her, for Lily, for Nana Rose's lost years of regret. The story was far from over. In fact, it felt like it was just beginning. What would she say when I told her about Nana Rose's letters, the hidden box, the 80 years of silence? And more importantly, would she even want to hear it? Or had I just ripped open a wound that had been closed, however imperfectly, for decades? I was told they wanted nothing to do with us. Clara's words hung in the air, heavy with a lifetime of misunderstanding and, I imagined, a quiet sorrow. Lord, have mercy, the webs we weave. Here was Nana Rose, hoarding letters and a baby booty, grieving her lost sister, and here was Lily's daughter, Clara, believing her mother's family had turned their backs on her. What a mess. A heartbreaking human mess. I typed back as quickly as my trembling fingers would allow, trying to convey warmth and sincerity through a cold computer screen. I explained who I was, Nana Rose's great-grandson. I told her about Nana Rose passing at 104, about finding the box, the letters, the photograph of her mother, Lily. I told her how Nana Rose had clearly cherished these mementos, how her letters to Lily were filled with love and regret, not rejection. I even attached a photo of one of Nana Rose's letters and the picture of Lily. The reply came faster this time. I'm overwhelmed. My mother, Lily, died when I was very young. My father remarried, and my stepmother, well, she wasn't keen on talking about my mother. She said Mama's family was ashamed of her and had cast her out. I grew up believing I had no one from her side. To think, all these years. We exchanged a few more messages. Then I did something I hadn't planned. I typed, "Clara, would you be open to a phone call? Or perhaps, if you're willing, I could drive to Charlotte. I'd love to tell you more, to show you these things in person. And my mother, Martha, she's Nana Rose's granddaughter, your first cousin. She would be overjoyed to know you." There was a pause, then, "A phone call would be wonderful. Here's my number." My heart was doing gymnastics. I called her immediately. Hearing her voice, a little frail but clear and gentle, made it all so much more real. We talked for over an hour. I told her everything I knew, about Nana Rose's long life, about our family. She listened, sometimes silent, sometimes asking quiet questions. She told me a little about her life, her late husband, her 2 grown children, her grandchildren. She'd had a good life, she said, but there had always been a part of her that wondered about her mother's family, a void she couldn't quite fill. "Your great-grandmother Rose," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "She kept my mother's picture? And a baby booty? I can hardly believe it." "She did, Clara," I said softly. "She truly did, and I think she regretted what happened more than words can say." By the end of the call, we'd made a plan. I would drive to Charlotte the following week. I was going to meet my cousin. I called my mom right after. "Mom, you're not going to believe this. I found her. I found Clara, and I'm going to meet her." Mom burst into tears, happy tears this time. "Oh, John, oh my goodness. After all these years, is she all right?" "She's wonderful, Mom. and she wants to meet us. Us, Mom said, her voice hopeful. Well, I figured I'd go first, break the ice. But yes, Mom, I think a family reunion is definitely in order. The drive to Charlotte felt like a dream. I had Nana Rose's box on the passenger seat beside me. When I pulled up to Clara's neat little suburban house, she was waiting on the porch. She looked so much like the picture of Lily, but older. Her hair silver, her face etched with the lines of a life lived. But the eyes, they were Lily's eyes, and Nana Rose's too. That same intensity, now softened with warmth. We hugged, a long, heartfelt embrace between two strangers who were, in fact, family. Her daughter, Susan, the same name as my wife, can you believe it, was there too, a kind woman about my kid's age. We sat in her cozy living room, and I carefully opened Nana Rose's box. I showed Clara the letters, let her hold her mother's photograph, and then, very gently, I placed the tiny knitted booty in her hand. Clara just stared at it, tears welling in her eyes and spilling down her cheeks. My mother knitted this? She whispered, her voice choked. I believe so, I said. Or perhaps Nana Rose did, for Lily's baby. She held that little booty like it was the most precious treasure on earth. All my life, she said, looking up at me, her eyes shining. I felt like a little boat, unmoored. Now I feel like I've found a harbor. We talked for hours. She told me about her father, Tom, who she said loved her but was a man of few words, and about her stepmother, Elsie, who, while not cruel, had made it clear that Lily was a closed chapter. Clara had never dared to ask too many questions. Now, suddenly, a whole part of her history was opening up. A few weeks later, we arranged for Clara and her daughter Susan to come visit us. My mom, Martha, was beside herself with excitement and nerves. The day they arrived, Mom and Clara just stood there for a moment, looking at each other. These two women in their 70s, first cousins who had lived their whole lives unaware of the other. Then they embraced, and everyone in the room was dabbing their eyes, me included. I'm not ashamed to admit it. It was like a missing piece of our family puzzle had finally clicked into place. We spent the weekend sharing stories, looking at old photos. Clara had a few precious faded snapshots of Lily that we'd never seen. And just connecting. It turned out Clara's son, Michael, lived only a couple of hours away from us. We had a whole new branch of the family to get to know. A few days after Clara had gone home, as we were doing a final clear-out of Nana Rose's house before selling it, my wife Susan was wiping down the old mahogany desk. John, she called, there's something sticky on the bottom of this big drawer here. I came over and felt underneath. Sure enough, taped securely to the underside of the main desk drawer, the one where the secret compartment hadn't been, was a thick plain manila envelope. It was old, the tape yellowed and brittle. My name was written on it in Nana Rose's familiar, spidery handwriting, for John, to be opened after the other. My heart skipped a beat. After the other, she'd known someone would find the box. Inside the envelope were several stacks of old savings bonds, the kind people bought during the war and after, and a short, handwritten note. It read, My dearest, John, if you are reading this, you have found Lily's box. I always knew you were the curious one, the one who wouldn't let things lie. These bonds were meant for Lily or her child, a little something to help them if they were ever found. I tried in my own way for a while, but the world was different. Then and I was a coward, perhaps. Use this for Clara if you find her, or for your own family. Know that an old woman's biggest regret was not fighting harder for her sister. Love, Nana Rose. The bonds, when we cashed them, weren't a king's ransom, not by today's standards, but it was a significant sum, several $1,000s. It was Nana Rose's final act of love, of trying to make amends. We talked to Clara, and she insisted it be used to start a small education fund for all the great-grandchildren, Nana Rose's and hers. A legacy of connection, she called it. And so that's the story of Nana Rose's secret. A story of heartbreak and separation, yes, but also one of enduring love, regret, and finally, reconciliation. It just goes to show you, family is a complicated thing, full of twists and turns you never see coming. But at the end of the day, those connections, those roots, they run deeper than any secret. Nana Rose, in her own mysterious way, brought us all together in the end, even after she was gone. Now, I gotta ask you, if you found a secret like this in your family, a secret hidden for 80 long years, would you have pursued it like I did? Or would you have thought it best to let sleeping dogs lie? I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments. And hey, if you enjoyed this old fella's tale, do me a favor and give this video a like and maybe even subscribe for more stories. From the heart, you take care now.